Jay's Custom Creations is sponsored by Bits and Bits. Use the code JBates to save 10% off your next router bit or CNC bit purchase at bitsbits.com. I'm titling this video, Every Table Saw Should Come With These. But realistically speaking, I know that's kind of a pipe dream. There's no way that every table saw could come with these for two main reasons. Number one, well, there's no standard height, right? There's no standard height or distance from the tabletop to the floor for every table saw out there. That's just not a standardized measurement. So that just nips it in the butt right there. But also number two, if you have a table saw, odds are you have enough scraps to make this, and it's incredibly easy. There's no need for a manufacturer to actually make these. So with that being said, these are called table saw in-feed support arms. This is not a novel idea of mine. I saw this a long time ago, and about a decade ago, I made a pair of these for one of my previous saws. And when I got rid of that saw, those arms went with that saw to the next owner. I haven't gotten around to making another set of these for this saw over the past, I would say, decade. But that's mainly because I've gotten in the habit of making my first and or second cut on a full sheet of sheet goods, plywood, MDF, that type of stuff, with a circular saw. And the more I use a circular saw that doesn't have dust collection worth a darn, the more I'm like, well, just use your table saw. Just make a set of these and use your table saw. So we all think about table saw safety. One of the things about table saw safety is having material support on the outfeed side. As you push your material through, you have an outfeed table to support the cut to where it doesn't fall down and you're fumbling over the blade and all that stuff. But it's, I would say, almost equally as important to take into consideration the front end of your cut as well. With these arms set on the front rail of your saw, first off, it's stable. It's not going anywhere. You can position your material up against the fence or however you need to do it before you even turn the saw on, so you have a good start before you make any cuts. Table saw is one of those things that's probably a little bit intimidating to a lot of people, and the more intimidation you can take out of it, the more you can feel comfortable using a table saw, the safer it's going to be. So these table saw in-feed support arms are incredibly easy to make. They're incredibly useful even when using a full sheet, not this half sheet that I'm showing you with right here. So let me bring you in close, and I'll show you mainly just one change from the last design, the last pair that I made. And that is this kind of like a T-square style registration block right in front. You obviously don't need to use nice wood with this. This is just a junk piece of wood that was on my lumber rack that just happens to be flat on top, and that's really all that I care about is flat on top. Now you'll see that I have a square front rail here, which makes it so much easier to do this, but it's not impossible if you have an extruded aluminum style front rail. Just use a compass or a scribe of some kind, and you can scribe that shape to this top rail and then cut it out. It may help to make a saddle with a very thin top thickness right here for those extruded aluminum styles, to where the saddle kind of fits in place, and then the top rail would glue on top of the saddle, making sure it's flush or a little bit lower than this top surface here. Hopefully that made sense. But in this case, this is the easiest scenario. You have a block of wood down here that is sized to fit in between the rail and the saw, and it doesn't have to be snug. As a matter of fact, you don't really want this to be snug because you're not gaining anything by the friction being right here. What you want is this board to be clamped to the saw like this, so your hands are free, and then this piece attached to here, so you can pull it back and keep it nice and tight into this groove and secure it to this piece right here, the T-square style piece right here. Hopefully that makes sense. That way you have the shortest distance possible between this edge and the interior edge down here of this block. Now, over time, if this starts to bend off a little bit, or you get a little bit of wear and tear to where this goes in super loose and you lose the effectiveness of this maintaining square, this is kind of like a T-square, all you have to do is pop this up and put some tape on this interior face to shim it tighter. Once it's tighter, what you want is to kind of, hold it in place by itself. That way it doesn't wiggle around on you, I guess you could say. But it's very, very basic construction. You could just look at this and understand how it's made, although I have a dimension diagram for this particular setup for free on my website. The length, in my opinion, needs to be a greater than dimension. Make these greater than 48 inches. Make them however long you want, but greater than 48 inches. And what that'll allow you to do is get the entire sheet of plywood or sheet good material onto the surface, fully supported before you hit the saw. Now, of course, depending on which saw you have a little bit of wiggle room on the front side of the blade, between the front of the blade and the front of the saw. But I like to have a little bit more than 48 inches. And this also helps for when you're ripping long ways on the table saw in the 96-inch direction on a sheet of plywood. Having them a little bit longer really, really helps, and it really doesn't hurt anything. The next thing that is important is the height of the legs. So the height of the legs needs to be, obviously, the height from this surface of the front rail to the floor. You need some type of strap hinge. Now don't laugh, but these strap hinges, let me pop this up. These strap hinges are made out of nothing but, I don't know if you can see it from there, it is just duct tape. All right, I have some hinges that ended up being a little bit too wide for this. Several layers of duct tape with a little bit of staple reinforcement. It's just a strap hinge. And on the shelf, rather, or on the wall, the tape is only going to support the weight of the leg. That's it. It's not going to support anything else. And when you actually put it on the saw, the only purpose of the tape is to just hold the two pieces together. There's really no movement. So drill a hole on the back side of the arm, so that way when you're done with them, you can hang them up on the wall. And this is important, hang them up on the wall or store them right next to the table saw. If it's not convenient, you're less likely to use it. So you want to make these as convenient as possible to use. The main difference between the ones that I made for my previous saw and this one is on my previous saw, this piece right here, the T-square style piece, was much shorter, if I'm not mistaken, and it was in the vertical orientation. Having it flat in the horizontal orientation and making it wider, making this connection really strong, makes this kind of act like a T-square style fence, same way as my table saw. That way, they're much more stable and solid if you bump into them than the last design. So these aren't going anywhere. You can interact with these, you can bump into them, it's not going to fall over on you and cause all kinds of chaos as you're trying to make a cut. That's it for this video. Like I said, it's just crazy easy to make, but if you're interested in the exact dimensions of this particular set for this particular saw, saw.pcs, I'll have that available on my website. You guys take care, have a great day, and I'll talk to you in the next video.